Alright, so, hello. I went ahead and continued my IA for my end of the year project. So this is just working with the OBS Text Editor and live updating in OBS. So to summarize, my project, basically I learned JavaScript, which I didn't know in the past, and I freshened up all my HTML skills and experimented with Electron, which is able to create desktop applications like Discord and Slack. Um, and I went ahead and developed it so you can install the OBS Text Editor to your computer, kind of like any application. And I thought this would be more convenient, especially for upcoming years when people will be streaming rather than a jar file that might have plenty of dependencies that get a little bit more messy, while this one's more like nicely packaged. So basically, to start, I want to talk about some of these functions that I created. So I created npm run package, and through this function, it'll go ahead and prepare the package that creates the executable right here. But I'll go ahead and run it off of the command prompt with npm run start to show the intricacies of how I created this program and was debugging it as I basically developed it over the last like several weeks. Okay, so if I do npm run start, you'll notice that it opens up my application and it opens the console. I'll go ahead and X that out. And in Atom, all of that code is done through these functions, which I created here in a package.json. And my formatting is basically to have all of my HTML templates or the pages that are displayed to my face right here. In this folder, my OBS local files that I'll be calling from here are located in this folder right here. And then I have all of my scripts, aka all of the backbone to my project, in this folder. And it's basically all contained under game-based functionality. To be quite frank, I didn't end up really using any classes. It felt slightly modular, but I still think it was a very clear-cut way to do it. And if I were to create classes, it would probably just be to have the ability to add new buttons like opposing team name and I'll go into more depth on this at the very end. So basically, the project still contains the same functions that it did in the original IA. So, for example, if I were to type in an opposing team name, it generates over here just like it did in my regular IA, but now it's all in JavaScript because that's the most compatible language with HTML. And something that I noticed was kind of cool is that there's live updating in HTML and JavaScript, and also there is dynamic resizing in HTML and JavaScript, so that was really nice. So it'll probably help people who are streaming from different platforms to be able to run this program. And something else was that I was able to run this program on my Windows laptop really well, so it had minimal issues with like compatibility in different operating systems. So to show a sample of this, and I'll go Granite Bay, and I'll select a season. These are the same functions as my IA once again. And if I were to select a few people and go down here, I could also select whether I'm have them alphabetically, and you'll see it sorts it. But a bug I did notice is that I have to double click in order to get it to refresh. So you notice how to get it to refresh by team assignment, I had to double click to get it to work. I would definitely think that's something that's a should fix because it's kind of annoying, to be quite frank, but I don't have a solution for it quite right now. And I also noticed that I didn't have a remove filters button in my original IA and thought it would help improve like how user-friendly the interface is, so you could undo the filters you've put on. And I also added a button to import TSVs. So I can import a roster, for example, for a new year. And I thought this would be kind of nice, being that in my old version there wasn't really a convenient way to do that without editing the code. So it makes it easier to use for future years. The formatting is just last first, team assignment, and mobilytics web link. So it just uses all the data on the main roster database that you currently host. So basically, I can go through this and add in all of my players. Sorry, clear it out, I think, because I X'd out of it for a second, but I'm going to have a duplicate right here because I didn't realize. Either way, so I can go ahead and generate the stream once I have selected everything, and I'll click OK. And I added an alert so it's more clear when it's generated. And you'll notice I immediately generated to Overwatch gameplay, and that my roster is working perfectly. I have a duplicate, so yeah, that did work. And something that I had added in was the scoreboard, so basically it could use a little bit more work for the HTML part, but I went ahead and set up the functionality, focusing more on getting it basically set up. So you see here I can add to the points, and I believe it just reset, so that's why it swapped over, because I had just restarted the program. But either way, that's the basics behind the scoreboard, and it could definitely use more work, but I thought it was cool that we were able to get some sort of outside source displaying locally. And let me see. So something else I wanted to go over was the League of Legends page. So all of this is the same over here. You notice that that's the same. This is the same. And the only thing that's different is the player type, which we've always had. And also that I decided to have the stats already import into here, so the streamer can see them before they actually are displayed on the page. So if I were to add you, and then maybe add, I think, I'm trying to remember who's on here. I think Akira is on there, so let me do that. And I'll go with that for now. And then I go ahead and generate the stream. It should update down here, and I go, oh, perfect, so that's what it would look like. And then I could also go back over to here. Let's say I wasn't actually on the League of Legends roster page. I wouldn't have to guess what it's gonna look like. So you'll notice I believe I did top and middle. So if I go to top, that's updated to the correct one, and then middle is bean. So that's perfect. And then just to show it live, this was something that I was so tickled about, because the mobilytics was something that was being very finicky at first. So if I were to, let's say I do, let's do Zachary, and let's do support, and I add him, and then I generate the stream. I could go over here, and I could refresh it, and you'll notice that that's updated, and it also updated down here. So that's the setup for League of Legends, and the other setups are basically about the same. I'm not gonna go extremely into detail on clicking all the buttons through here, but they do work the exact same. I could add players, I could generate the stream from here, but for time's sake, I want to go more so through my code. So I also put this in here, so it points to the text file or the files where you should point your reference to in OBS. So for example, if I was like, oh, I want to know where the mobilytics files are, I could go in here, click the question mark, and it'll go, oh, it's in top.html, and then I could go over here, and then I would be able to click properties, and then browse where top.html is in my files. So if I went down to OBS Text Editor, and I went to source, and my local files, top.html. So all of the local files are in here, and it's organized. And just to finish it off, basically my code takes on like the ability to call data even after the application is closed, because I used local storage, meaning that it's keeping a cache in between pages. So that was something that I was able to use instead of having to read and write to files in a complicated manner through Java. And then another thing I was working on was instant refreshing, which you saw there. And then I had to use JSON parsing just because I was using local storage to store my data, and it allows for me to keep the format of it. And then something else I was using, let me see. I was using different designs in CSS, which I had just learned, so all of these are written for my project to improve the look and feel of it. And you could also see in index.js, I do a little bit of initialization of the project. And then all of these cards, I went ahead and designed them. Something that I also want to mention is that if you go in here and let's say I selected someone who doesn't have like a card, it'll say no stats. So that was something that I wanted to put in there. So basically that's the summary of my project, and I definitely could use a lot more work. As I said I wanted to say in the beginning, I believe it would be so useful to have like the ability to add in more of like different sections like title inserts and roster inserts, so people could customize their own pages and then set the title that of their input file so that they could just reference it in OBS. So the idea of having it where they can dynamically add new options would be great. And then also those tiny bugs here and there, like with the double clicking and so forth, and a little bit with the scoreboard are some things that could definitely use some work. But I found that it was quite successful compared to my IA, and that it's a little more reliable. So thank you.